All right, so today we're going to be tackling a challenge that I think a lot of people can relate to, maximizing a really tiny office space. Specifically, we're diving into this article from moveandstay.com, all about making the most of a 200 square foot office. Now,
Yeah.
for anyone who's ever tried to cram their whole work life into a teeny space,
Yeah.
you know that every single inch counts.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. MoveAndStay.com focuses on helping people find places to work in Asia,
Whoa.
where compact living is even more common.
Mm.
So their perspective on space optimization is really valuable,
Oh, great.
even if you're not working in a bustling Asian metropolis.
That's a great point. And they've been doing this for over 25 years. So they must have some serious space-saving secrets up their sleeves. I'm really curious about their approach because it's not just about fitting things in. It's about creating a functional and inspiring workspace.
Yeah, definitely. The article really emphasizes that every design choice, every piece of furniture should serve a purpose. It's very intentional design.
I like that. No wasted space, no random clutter. So where do we even start? The article kicks off with desk placement, which makes sense. That's the heart of any office, right?
Yeah, and they highlight the importance of natural light. They even go beyond the usual, oh, it's good for you. They actually cite studies linking natural light to increased productivity and improved mood, which I thought was really fascinating.
Well, I always felt more energized in a bright, sunny room, but I didn't realize there was actual science backing that up. So how do they suggest we maximize natural light in a small office?
Well, they recommend positioning your desk near a window, of course.
Wow.
But they also caution against glare. So think about using sheer curtains or blinds to filter the light, or even strategically angling your desk to avoid direct sunlight on your screen. It's all about finding that sweet spot between maximizing light and minimizing distractions.
Makes sense. Corner desks are mentioned too, which I always found kind of intriguing. They seem like such an efficient use of space. But I wonder if they can sometimes feel a bit closed off, especially in a small room.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. You definitely don't want to create a cramped feeling. But the article suggests considering wall-mounted foldable desks for even smaller spaces, so you get a dedicated workspace when you need it. Then it folds away neatly, freeing up that valuable floor space. It's like a hidden desk,
Yeah.
Perfect for reclaiming your living room after work.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Especially if you're working from home and you don't want your office to take over your entire space. So we've got the desk situated, bathed in natural light.
Yeah.
But what about all the stuff that comes with work, papers, files, gadgets? Where do we put all that in a 200 square foot office?
Well, the article has a whole section dedicated to storage solutions, and their approach is very organized, very strategic. Vertical storage is key here. Tall shelves, wall units, anything that draws the eye upward and utilizes those often neglected vertical spaces.
Right. It's such a classic small space trick.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much floor space you free up when you go vertical. It's like a magic trick.
Yeah. Precisely. And they also emphasize utilizing hidden storage, benches with lift-up seats, desks with built-in compartments, those kinds of things. It's all about maximizing every nook and cranny without creating visual clutter.
I love those hidden storage solutions. They're like secret compartments, adding a little mystery to your office. But let's be honest, even with the best storage, things can still get pretty chaotic in a small space. So what about furniture? How do they approach that?
Well, the article really champions multifunctional furniture, which makes perfect sense in a small office. Every piece should have the potential to serve multiple purposes.
So what are some examples they give? This is the part I'm really curious about.
Well, they mention convertible desks that can fold away completely when you're not working. Imagine that. A dedicated workspace that magically disappears when you need to reclaim your living space.
See, that's the kind of innovative thinking I was hoping for. I love that idea. What else?
They also highlight sofa beds, which offer comfortable seating by day and a guest bed by night. It's like gaining an extra room without actually adding any square footage. And expandable tables are a must-have, perfect for solo work, team meetings, or even dinner parties, depending on your needs.
Okay, that's genius. I'm starting to see a pattern here. It's not just about shrinking things down to fit. It's about making each piece adaptable to different uses.
Exactly. And they really encourage readers to look at their current furniture with a critical eye. Ask yourself, how can this piece serve multiple purposes? That mindset is key to maximizing a small space.
So what if I love my giant comfy armchair? Do I have to sacrifice comfort for functionality in a small office?
Not necessarily. It's about finding the right balance. Maybe your armchair becomes your dedicated reading or brainstorming spot, while your desk area is reserved for focused work. Which brings us to another interesting concept the article touches on: open concept layouts.
Open concept in a small space. I'm intrigued, but also a little skeptical. How do you create that sense of openness when you're already working with limited square footage?
It's all about creating visual boundaries without relying on physical walls. The article suggests using open shelving units as dividers. They provide separation while still allowing light to pass through, so you maintain that airy feeling.
Oh, I like that idea. It's like a
Ah,
subtle way of defining zones without closing things off completely. So it's not just about furniture, it's about how you arrange everything within the space.
exactly. And they also suggest using rugs to delineate different areas. Imagine a soft rug under your armchair, visually separating it from the harder flooring of your work zone. It's all about those visual cues.
I'm starting to see how this all comes together. It's like creating a visual flow within the space, even if it's small.
Mhm.
But what about when you need actual privacy, say for a video call or just to shut out distractions?
The article recommends curtains or portable screens for those moments when you need to create a more defined separation. They're great for temporary privacy and can be easily moved or adjusted as needed.
I can picture a beautiful Japanese-style screen adding a touch of elegance and serenity to the space. Speaking of aesthetics, the article also delves into decorating strategies, right? I'm all about creating a stylish workspace, even if it's tiny.
Yes, and they emphasize the power of light colors to make a small space feel larger. They specifically mention white beige and soft pastels as being great for reflecting light and creating an airy feel.
That makes sense. I've always gravitated towards lighter colors in small rooms. But is it all about whites and neutrals? What if I want to add a pop of color?
They do suggest incorporating a few carefully chosen accent colors, but they caution against going overboard. Too much color can overwhelm a small space and make it feel cluttered.
So it's about finding that balance again, light and airy, but with a touch of personality. Now, what about mirrors? I always heard they can make a room feel bigger.
Absolutely. The article recommends strategically placing mirrors to reflect light and create the illusion of depth. For example, a large mirror on a wall opposite a window can make a space feel twice its size.
It's like a magic trick. And speaking of illusions, the article also touches on minimalism, right?
Yes. They emphasize the importance of minimizing clutter in a small space. Every item should serve a purpose and contribute to the overall aesthetic.
I've been trying to embrace minimalism in my own life, but I have to admit I struggle with letting go of things. It's hard to know what to keep and what to toss. Any tips from the article?
They recommend asking yourself 3 questions about each item. Does it spark joy? Does it serve a purpose? Does it enhance the overall aesthetic? If the answer is no to any of those questions, it might be time to say goodbye.
Okay, I'm going to try that. It's a good reminder that a clutter-free space can be a more peaceful and productive space. Now, shifting gears a bit, the article also mentions activity-based workspaces, which I'm really interested in. Can you explain what that means exactly?
It's a design concept that recognizes we don't always need to be tethered to a single desk. It's about creating different zones within your office that support different types of work activities.
So instead of just having a desk and a chair, you might have a dedicated area for focused work, another for collaboration, and maybe even a space for relaxation or breaks.
Exactly. It's about creating a more dynamic and flexible work environment. And even within a 200 square foot office, you can achieve this. For example, you might have a standing desk near a window for focused work, a small table and chairs for meetings or brainstorming, and a cozy corner with a comfortable chair for reading or taking breaks.
I love that idea. It makes so much sense, especially now that so many people are working from home and need to create a more versatile workspace.
Mm.
But how do you decide which zones to include?
It really depends on your work style and the type of work you do. If you spend a lot of time on video calls, you might prioritize a quiet zone with good lighting and minimal distractions. If you do a lot of collaborative work, you might create a comfortable space with a whiteboard and comfortable seating.
That's a good point. It's about tailoring the space to your individual needs. Now, on a more practical level, the article also mentions the importance of sustainable practices in a small office. I'm all about being eco-conscious, but I'm curious to hear how they suggest incorporating sustainability into a small space.
They highlight 3 key areas: using eco-friendly materials, maximizing natural light, and encouraging sustainable commuting.
Okay, let's break those down. Starting with materials, what are some eco-friendly options they recommend?
They mention bamboo as a great choice for furniture and flooring. It's a rapidly renewable resource, it's incredibly durable, and it has a beautiful natural aesthetic that can bring a sense of warmth to a workspace.
I love bamboo. It's so versatile and sustainable. What else?
They also suggest considering cork, which is harvested from the bark of cork oak trees. The trees can regenerate their bark multiple times over their lifespan, making it a very sustainable material. Plus, cork has fantastic acoustic properties, so it's great for flooring or wall coverings in an office.
That's interesting. So not only is it eco-friendly, but it can also help create a more peaceful work environment. What about recycled steel?
Yes, they highlight recycled steel as a great option for furniture shelving units or even structural elements within your office. It's incredibly strong and durable and can be recycled over and over again without losing its quality.
Okay, so we've got bamboo cork and recycled steel as our sustainable material trifecta.
Hmm.
What about maximizing natural light? We already talked about desk placement near windows, but what else can we do?
They emphasize the importance of using energy-efficient LED bulbs, which use a fraction of the energy of traditional incandescent bulbs and last much longer.
Right. And they come in a variety of color temperatures now.
Yeah.
So you can choose a warm, inviting light for your relaxation zone and a cooler, more energizing light for your work area. It's amazing how lighting can impact the mood of a space.
Absolutely. And they also mention smart lighting systems that can be programmed to adjust the brightness and color temperature of your lights throughout the day, mimicking the natural patterns of sunlight.
That's so cool. It's like bringing the outdoors in. Okay, so we've covered materials and lighting. What about sustainable commuting? How can we incorporate that into our office design?
Well, that's more about promoting a sustainable mindset among employees. But the article suggests that companies can encourage sustainable commuting by providing bike racks, shower facilities, and incentives for carpooling or using public transportation.
That makes sense. It's about making it easier for people to choose eco-friendly options.
Exactly. And even if you're not a company, you can still adopt a more sustainable approach to your own commute. If possible, try biking or walking to work. Or if you have to drive, consider carpooling with colleagues or neighbors.
I like that. So even small changes can have a big impact.
Absolutely. Every little bit counts. Now, shifting gears again, I want to touch on something we haven't discussed yet: the emotional impact of a well-designed workspace.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more.
Well, the article doesn't explicitly address this, but I think it's an important consideration, especially when we're talking about small spaces. When you're working in a limited area, it's even more crucial to create a space that feels positive and inspiring.
I totally agree. Your surroundings can have a huge impact on your mood and productivity. So how do we create that positive vibe in a small office?
It's about incorporating elements that bring you joy and make you feel good. Maybe it's a plant, a piece of art, or a cozy throw blanket.
I love that. It's like adding those little touches of personality that make a space feel truly yours.
And don't underestimate the power of scent. A diffuser with essential oils can create a calming and uplifting atmosphere.
Those are great suggestions. It's amazing how these seemingly small details can make such a big difference in how you feel about your workspace.
Hmm.
I'm already feeling inspired to give my own office a little refresh.
Yeah, I think that's a key takeaway from this article. It's not just about squeezing things into a small space. It's about creating a space that truly supports your well-being and inspires you to do your best work.
I couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up our deep dive into maximizing a 200 square foot office, what are some key insights you want our listeners to walk away with?
Well, first remember that natural light is your friend. Not only is it good for your health and well-being, but it can also make a small space feel larger and more inviting.
Right, and don't be afraid to get strategic with desk placement and window treatments to make the most of that natural light.
Absolutely. And when it comes to storage, think vertically. Utilize those walls and embrace hidden storage solutions to maximize every inch of space.
And choose multifunctional furniture whenever possible.
Yeah.
Convertible desks, sofa beds, expandable tables, these are your secret weapons in the battle against a cramped workspace.
Right. And don't forget about open concept layouts. Use open shelving units, rugs, and curtains to create visual boundaries without closing things off completely.
Mm-hmm. Light colors, mirrors, and minimalist decor are also essential for making a small space feel larger and more airy.
Yeah, and finally remember that sustainability isn't just about being eco-friendly. It's about creating a healthier and more inspiring work environment for yourself.
I love that. So even small offices can be havens of productivity, creativity, and well-being.
Exactly. It's all about making intentional design choices and embracing those small space solutions that make the most of what you have.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. I'm feeling so much more equipped to tackle my own small office challenges. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we sign off?
Just remember that your workspace should be a reflection of you and your needs. Don't be afraid to experiment, get creative, and have fun with it.
That's perfect advice. So to all our listeners out there, go forth and optimize. Turn those small spaces into amazing workspaces that inspire you to do your best work.
And remember, even the smallest office can be a source of great joy and fulfillment.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration of knowledge and ideas. Until then, happy organizing.
And don't underestimate the power of scent. A diffuser with essential oils can create a really calming and uplifting atmosphere.
Those are great suggestions. It's amazing how these seemingly small details can make such a big difference in how you feel about your workspace. I'm already feeling inspired to give my own office a little refresh.
Yeah, I think that's a key takeaway from this article. It's not just about squeezing things into a small space, you know? It's about creating a space that truly supports your well-being and inspires you to do your best work.
I couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up our deep dive into maximizing a 200 square foot office, what are some key insights you want our listeners to walk away with?
Well, first remember that natural light is your friend. Not only is it good for your health and well-being, but it can also make a small space feel larger and more inviting.
Right. And don't be afraid to get strategic with desk placement and window treatments to make the most of that natural light.
Absolutely. And when it comes to storage, think vertically. Utilize those walls and embrace hidden storage solutions to maximize every inch of space.
And choose multifunctional furniture whenever possible. Convertible desks, sofa beds, expandable tables. These are your secret weapons in the battle against a cramped workspace.
Right. And don't forget about open concept layouts. Use open shelving units, rugs, and curtains to create visual boundaries without closing things off completely.
Light colors, mirrors, and minimalist decor are also essential for making a small space feel larger and more airy.
Yeah. And finally, remember that sustainability isn't just about being eco-friendly. It's about creating a healthier and more inspiring work environment for yourself.
I love that. So even small offices can be havens of productivity, creativity, and well-being.
Exactly. It's all about making intentional design choices and embracing those small space solutions that make the most of what you have.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. I'm feeling so much more equipped to tackle my own small office challenges. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we sign off?
Just remember that your workspace should be a reflection of you and your needs. Don't be afraid to experiment, get creative, and have fun with it.
That's perfect advice. So to all our listeners out there, go forth and optimize. Turn those small spaces into amazing workspaces that inspire you to do your best work.
And remember, even the smallest office can be a source of great joy and fulfillment.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration of knowledge and ideas. Until then, happy organizing.